Welcome to the first crossover episode with Advisorator. If you're not familiar with Advisorator, one of my good friends, Jared Newman, writes a couple technology-centered newsletters. He writes Advisorator and Cord Cutter Weekly. Cord Cutter Weekly is going to keep you up to speed with the ever-changing atmosphere around streaming services and let you know about the latest deals, keep you informed on which streaming service you can use to watch the Patriots in your area, or the Giants, whatever. And Advisorator is, that covers a lot of different things from smart devices, keeping you in the know on those, tips with using Android, iOS, cell phones, browser hacks, like extensions that are useful for web browsing, and just a whole lot of different technology things, USB chargers, various. I highly recommend both those newsletters. I'll include links to those, and they're going to save you some time, help you cut through a lot of the nonsense that you would have to go through searching for information on the internet. This is just going to condense it, and definitely worth it. Saves me some time. So one of Newman's readers sent him an email that Newman then forwarded to me to get my input on it. And the reader wrote that they're digging the Advisorator stuff so far. Thought I'd check with you on your thoughts on portable solar chargers. Possible uses are for camping, beach trips, or backyard use away from outlets. Multiple device charging would be a plus. Any personal preferences or links to previous coverage on this topic? So, reader, hopefully you got the link to this video, and I'm going to do my best to answer your question. So, if you're arriving at this YouTube channel for the first time, a bit about me. I primarily live off-grid on the side of a mountain in northern Vermont. My cabin runs off solar, got a whole bunch of solar panels out there charging up batteries that power the cabin. So I guess it would make sense to perhaps ask for my input on batteries. So today, that is what we're going to talk about, of course. Batteries. I'm going to go into probably more detail than the reader was looking for, because I'm just going to go through most of the batteries that I use in kind of my day-to-day life. But really, I'll probably spend most time on these two. I know this is what the reader is really looking for information on. So of course we're looking at a wide range, in size of batteries here. I'll go over each one. But before I get into each specific battery, it is important to know really the various measurements, that go along with power usage. So when looking these up online, or even looking at the labels on the back, you're going to have measurements of volts, amps, and watts, and also amp hours and watt hours. So volts times amps equals watts, watts divided by volts equals amps, and so on. Now, amp hours, watt hours, those are going to be measurements of amps over time, amp hours, watts over time. The most important unit I would focus on when looking for something like one of these is the watt hours. That's going to tell you how many watts you can use with your devices before it's out of juice. So as an example, if I have a light bulb, standard light bulb's going to use around 8 to 10 watts, so let's say 10. If I have a 100 watt hour battery, I can plug in that 10 watt bulb and it'll go for 10 hours. 100 divided by 10, 10 hours. And so on. So I would also say it can be useful to know how much of a draw, how many watts each of your devices are using. And if you want to know that, so I've got this thing, this brand is called a kilowatt, pun intended, I'm sure. plug it into whatever outlet, you can plug it into the battery, plug in your device, and it will tell you how many watts it's using. So that is how I know that my 32-inch TV over there uses about 30 watts. So again, if we're going to my 100 watt-hour battery example, I'll be able to use that TV for a little over 3 hours. These go by, various brand names. You can pick them up at the hardware store, plenty of places online. It, really, it's just a power meter by any other name. So these bigger batteries are going to be measured primarily in watt hours. When you get into these smaller things, the portable stuff, you're often going to have a measurement of milliamp hours or amp hours, because these are full DC 12-volt batteries. This maybe has 1.5 volt to 5 volt batteries inside of it, depending. So this is 1,000 milliamp hours. I know it's a lot of various measurements coming into play, but again, when looking at the big stuff, watt hours should be pretty simple to calculate what you're going to get out of it. This guy, so the brand is Anker, A-N-K-E-R. Love this brand. They have, they're going to have a lot of power solutions, USB chargers, and this goes with me when I'm hiking, when I'm backpacking, when I'm cycling. You'll be able to charge your cell phone at least a couple times with this. It's a nice backup to have. I also keep this was separate, but it's just a little LED light. Plugs right in there, because why not? Now as a backup, you got a little flashlight. Next size up, so this is, what do we got? It's going to say on the back, 24 watt hours. This stays in my truck. Biggest reason is you can jump your vehicle with this. It comes with jumper cables, but it's going to, so the brand, this is NOCO or NOCO. They sell various sizes, but it's got a USB out to charge. Again, charge my cell phone. You'll be able to charge a laptop even probably a couple times. Also has a light. Turn it on. I'm trying to shine that right at the camera. But I think this is a good kind of emergency thing to have in case you get stuck somewhere in a snowstorm, car dies and your phone dies. You want to have a way to resolve both of those things. So as far as camping, not backpacking, but camping, so I wouldn't carry either of these with me. If you're backpacking, like, you don't need all that electricity, come on. But hanging out in your backyard, away from an outlet, or camping, where you're within 100 yards of where you park, these are both good. So this is, the brand is FlashFish, and this is listed on Amazon at least as their 200 watt model. Now you want to be careful there. The 200 watts pertains to, it can output 200 watts at a time. So if you have a 200 watt, I don't know what would use that, something drawing 200 watts, it can use that. Anything more and it won't work. But again, what you want to check is the watt hours. This is 151 watt hours. So you want to be aware of that distinction. The watts that it's listing, so you can make it confusing, is continuous output. That's its maximum, 200 watts. 151 watt hours, so your 10 watt light bulb, you'll get 15 hours out of that. So this, if you're just running lights, you'll probably get a weekend out of it, no problem. You will be able to charge a laptop a few times at least, charge your tablet, cell phone, a bunch of times. This will get you pretty far. Forget how much this costs, maybe $200. So that's 151 watt hours. This, by Jackery, this is a beast. This is, let's make sure, right? So this is the Jackery Explorer 500, and its battery has 520 watt hours. A lot. This is my backup for if I were to run out of electricity at my cabin, or if I want to run my laptop all weekend away from my cabin, because sometimes I do work from outside, just for the atmosphere of it. This will more than get me through a whole weekend of powering the laptop. This, I mean, you could power a mini fridge for a day. You get a lot with that, so that might be more than most people need. Again, 520 watt hours, 150 watt hours. If you're going for, say, a weekend, powering things for a weekend, such as maybe a laptop for a couple charges, tablet, a few charges, and your phone, be able to charge it a bunch. You may want to look more in like the 250 watt hour to 300 watt hour range. This one, I don't think I said the cost. This costs $600 every now and then. It's on sale for $500, which it is on sale right now on Amazon. So this is a really good brand, Jackery. I would recommend it, but again, they have a full line of sizes, this being one of the bigger ones. Now, all of these batteries are DC, direct current, as opposed to AC, alternating current, which is AC is what you have in your house at a wall outlet. DC, direct current, those are batteries. All batteries are DC. But one of these things, these two models, they are really three components together. You've got a charge controller, which is for when you have this plugged into a solar panel. The charge controller is regulating the power coming in so that it doesn't overcharge, so that it doesn't send power the wrong way, and it will cut the power when it's fully charged. Charge controller. Then the battery is in there, but there's also an inverter. The inverter is what is going to take you from DC to AC. So another way of thinking of that, DC, AC. Let's get closer. DC, AC. You want to use the DC when you can, because if you're running it right off the DC, you're running it right from the battery without having the inverter involved. The reason you would prefer that is because when it's inverted to AC, there's about a 20% loss in power. So I could be running the same exact thing, in both of these ports, in the DC and the AC, and it's gonna last. It's gonna last longer in the DC because you're not inverting it. You don't have that loss. And then even so, this smaller one has a little adapter for your DC input. All right, let's show these a little more closely again. So these are going to have readouts of how much power is left. Right now I just flipped on the AC. It's a separate button to turn on the DC. Just separate buttons so that really that way you don't have any waste. You want to leave it on when you're not using it. And then in the bigger one, turn on, just have to hit the display button. So that's also going to give you the remaining battery. And if you have something plugged in, it shows the output in watts, so you're actually going to know exactly what the draw is and not really need that power meter that I showed earlier. This one also has a built-in light there. Now, so I have those batteries for their various uses. I also have a bunch of Ryobi batteries that are primarily for the Ryobi power tools. These are batteries, like I said, mainly that I use for the tools, but because I have them, I also bought an inverter for those batteries. Just gives me another backup because I have so many of these batteries, various sizes. So the smallest one here is 24 watt hours, really small. I wouldn't really bother using it, but hook this on. This also has a light. That battery's, no, light. 2 USB inputs, and then a regular AC input. So 24 watt hours. We've got this 72 watt hours, 108 watt hours. So this is, oh, that's 108. And there's 162. So this actually rivals this. So like I said, if you already have Ryobi batteries, the giant ones, just get that. You know, this is fancy. This is, you know, really good. Kind of give you everything you need if you just need to charge a couple things without needing the fancy display and all that. I do use this. So these batteries, they of course come with cords. They're going to come with a cord to charge it, your car, the DC charger. Also going to come with a wall charger, an AC charger. That's how I charge them. You may also, if you are camping, you may want to charge it via a solar panel, and you'll be able to hook that up. So there's the input on this one. Somewhere on this, well, there's the input. So various brands, good brands, sell solar panels. All my solar panels outside are, the brand is Renogy, R-E-N-O-G-Y. I would highly recommend those. I mean, you wouldn't be getting the types of panels I have out there. You get the portable ones. Most of them like fold up into 2 or 4 folded panels. I would say get at least a 50 watt panel. Anything less than that and is going to take a while to charge stuff. Those are going to run maybe 200 to 250 for a 50 watt panel. But again, if you're just running it in your backyard, charge the things inside and bring it out back there. As a recap, good brands: Jackery, Renogy, Anker. I would recommend all of those. For most people, you're going to be fine with a 250 to 300 watt hour battery. That will last you all weekend, as long as you're not trying to plug a microwave into it. Don't do that. Microwaves use a lot of electricity, like 1,000 watts. Don't do that. That concludes our crossover episode with Advisorator. Subscribe to Advisorator and Cord Cutter Weekly if you haven't already. And hopefully this was helpful and informative.